Hi, Jose.
Hey, Shoaa.
Are you ready to do this?
Of course. I'm excited.
So, listeners, Jose and I are high school seniors who reported for miseducation last year. And we wanted to come back to do a special episode in collaboration with our friends at Chalkbeat, which, if you don't know, is a wonderful source for local education news. And the reason is because a few weeks ago, they covered an issue that really got our attention.
The headline of the news article was, quote, NYC principal threatens to suspend students who follow specific Instagram accounts.
We read the article, and it brought up a bunch of big questions, like, should schools be able to police students' activity on social media?
And if so, what are the limits? Did the principal in this story go too far?
To get us started, we called up Alex Zimmerman, the reporter who broke the story, for a quick download on what happened. Hey Alex, it's Shoaa.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm doing great.
So I'm calling because your story about the principal and the Instagram account was really interesting, and I was wondering if you could give our listeners a quick rundown about what happened.
Yeah, no problem. So a few weeks ago, we got wind of a really unusual letter that was sent by the principal of Francis Lewis High School in Queens to the school's, 4,000 plus students. He was threatening to suspend kids only for following certain social media accounts, which kicked up a debate about students' free speech rights.
Whoa, that sounds pretty extreme. What were these accounts that the principal was worried about?
So the principal, David Marmor, wanted to eliminate two specific Instagram accounts. One of them was posting videos of fights that were happening around the school, and the other was posting anonymous comments. So I'll give you some examples. One post basically just said, I low-key miss my ex. Another post said, being special ed is embarrassing. I hate it. A different post included a link to a petition to change the school's bell schedule. But some of the other posts were a little bit more troubling. Some of them were sexually explicit. Others singled out specific students or included pretty racist language. So one post said, I don't like black people, and was signed by someone's first name.
Oh, wow.
A few other posts also mentioned Principal Marmor in vulgar or ways that could be pretty offensive.
I see why this is so concerning to the principal. But can you tell me more about the letter? How exactly did the principal address this issue?
Yeah, so Principal Marmor was really angry. And in an effort to put a stop to these accounts, he issued a really big threat. Any student who follows them, he said, was likely going to be suspended. And he also announced that the school was canceling a number of events, including a senior trip, prom, and a pep rally. And he was saying that those would be canceled until the accounts were either shut down or lost all of their followers.
So when it comes to school-related social media accounts, was Principal Marmor's response typical for school admin?
So we hadn't heard of something this drastic before, which is why we were interested in the story. We spoke to a few different legal experts and advocates, including the New York Civil Liberties Union, and they basically all came to the same conclusion, which was that suspending students just for following Instagram accounts is likely a violation of their free speech rights. Schools do have the power to discipline students or punish them for speech that happens, online and happens off campus if it's speech that genuinely disrupts the school environment. And that's according to a U.S. Supreme Court ruling.
So what happened after Principal Marmor sent the letter? How did the students respond?
So after he sent the letter, I took a long bus ride to Francis Lewis High School and spent some time interviewing students there. And a couple things really stuck out to me. Basically, all of them said that the Instagram accounts didn't seem to be causing big disruptions on campus. And some of them thought that the principal's threats actually drew more attention to those accounts. Some of the other students I talked to said they felt like the principal was unfairly punishing all students by canceling extracurricular activities like the prom. But this really, sharp and angry letter on his part did work. A bunch of students I spoke to unfollowed the accounts after the principal's threats. One student told me his mom was worried he wouldn't get a recommendation letter for college, and she had really pressured him to not engage with those social media accounts at all. And a smaller number of students said they really understood why the principal was so upset. Another thing that I thought was just worth noting was that a bunch of parent leaders at the school, at least the school's PTA president and that organization, basically had the principal's back and said that students who engage in these kinds of online social media accounts really should be punished.
So, Alex, this is just one school, one principal, but I'm wondering what the broader implications might be.
So, sometimes when a principal makes a big controversial move like this, the education department, which is responsible for supervising principals across the city, will step in and say, oops, the principal made a mistake. But in this case, the education department stood by Marmor. And that seemed really significant because it signals to other school leaders that the department will have their back if they try similar crackdowns on, campuses all over the city.
Well, Alex, this was really helpful. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, of course.
So, Jose, there's a lot to dig into here. I'm really curious to get your thoughts on whether the principal was right or wrong. And listeners, we're going to tell you how the story ends. Don't worry. But before we get there, let's start with these anonymous Instagram accounts. Have you seen these types of accounts?
I have not seen any accounts like these personally in my school. Neither have I heard of anyone in any other school, but I do know for sure that it can definitely cause a detrimental impact on students. How about you? Have you seen any accounts like these?
Yeah, actually, my school had two of these same accounts. One where they would post a Google Forms and students would be able to anonymously talk about anything they wanted. And another account was just for fight videos, leaking fight videos. So it was kind of the exact same situation. One thing that I do remember is that Instagram actually took the account down before my school even got to get involved. But this was big gossip amongst the students and even some teachers.
How did you feel about these accounts before they got deleted?
I mean, I remember looking at them. Actually, I remember kind of stalking it a little bit and being like, oh, wow, there's this 9th grade beef or 10th grade beef. So that was interesting in a way because it didn't involve me, but I remember being really scared of if my name popped up, how would I feel?
Absolutely. I can imagine how targeted students must feel. The negative effects that these attacks would have on their minds or on their social life. It can even lead to things like anxiety, depression.
Yeah, Jose, I completely agree with the fact that social media is really a huge part of our lives. But the issue at the center of this story is, should school officials be able to intervene when this is happening in students' private lives away from school?
So I'm very fascinated by this question, and Alex kind of talked about this earlier, but there was a situation similar to this question that actually ended up going all the way to Supreme Court.
Tell me about it.
So basically, there was a high school junior varsity cheerleader who tried out for varsity and didn't make it, and she wasn't happy with the results. So she ended up taking it to her personal Snapchat and posted some negative comments about the school, about the team, which even included some F-bombs. So someone saw this and showed it to school admin, and eventually she got suspended from her team.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the girl and her family took the school to court, arguing that this suspension infringed on her First Amendment right to freedom of speech.
So what was the outcome?
The court ruled 8-1 in favor of a Pennsylvania teenager who was punished for sending vulgar messages.
The girl won the case. The Supreme Court said that schools are only able to intervene if it is something that is clearly disrupting the school environment.
So going back to the Francis Lewis case, do you think that those accounts were disruptive enough for the school to take action?
100%. Yeah, I mean, thinking back to what Alex was describing about the things that were being posted, I truly do believe that the cyberbullying that was taking place, because it was cyberbullying, could have done certain things to the students, and I'm sure did do things to the students that did disrupt the school environment. So 100%. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, people were being outright like racist. Like it was really a matter where the school did need to put their foot down and say, we can't have this in our school. So we've established that the Francis Lewis principal, Dr. Marmor, had the right to address the behavior on these Instagram accounts. The big question is, did he go too far? And as a reminder, he threatened to cancel all fun school activities like pep rallies and suspend any students following these accounts.
In terms of the threats, I believe that Principal Marmor definitely went too far. I think threatening to suspend school-wide activities that literally impact every student in the school, I think was not appropriate for something that, just a group of students really, did. I think that kind of threatening the entire school thing really affected the relationship between the students and the principal, because when the students see that this principal is like canceling all these activities, it can make the students start to like fear the principal. I think those that were creating any content or were behind the accounts, those definitely deserved their punishments, but not just those who followed them, because it's like people could have followed the accounts for any reason. There really just isn't a way. There's no solid proof to say like this person followed and they're doing this. But I'm curious to hear, what do you think about this?
I completely disagree with you. I feel like the students who followed the account are also part of bringing light to the situation. They are kind of bringing an audience. Keep in mind, these accounts had over like 1,000 followers. It wasn't a small audience. So there were definitely multiple people involved. But when it comes to the principal's threats, I feel as though maybe a more realistic threat would have helped. But at the end of the day, his threats ended up working. Him saying, I'm going to cancel these activities and I'm going to take away all of these fun things, it worked. Also, I feel like, in my opinion, if someone did, let's say, have the guts to make a new Instagram account like this, I feel like people would be more worried about who was behind the Instagram account, more like who's responsible for jeopardizing more of our fun activities or our prom or stuff like that. And instead of focusing on the drama and kind of having fun in the drama, instead they would kind of just be like, why is this person making a new account if we literally just got threatened for having our stuff taken away?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I see your point. I don't totally agree, but I see your point. All right, so listeners, there was actually an update on this story. A few days after the events that took place, Principal Marmor sent out an update, which was after the first letter. He says, quote, to the entire FLHS school community, over the past few days, the entire school community came together to condemn the online bullying and hate found on the two previously highlighted Instagram accounts, end quote. He also mentions that both of the accounts were officially gone and that all school functions are therefore reinstated. He says, quote, I am personally looking forward to celebrating with the entire school at the upcoming pep rally, unquote. And he continues to say that he is proud of how the students handled this, and he's also proud to be the principal at FLHS.
This was such a good ending. I'm really happy that it turned out this way. I feel like this was a big lesson when it comes to bullying. I'm glad that Principal Marmor took these actions and the kids learned from them. They learned that their actions will have consequences, anonymous or not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad it ended. I'm just glad that the decision was made, things kind of came to an end. But I don't agree so much with the way that it got here. I think Principal Marmor could have definitely treated the students maybe in a more positive way. But there's one issue that we haven't talked about here, and it's the social media companies themselves. We can't let them off the hook here, right? I believe that in an ideal world, none of this stuff should even be happening on social media, right? Social media should be a healthy, safe space for everyone. And I think social media companies can definitely do more to work with schools to prevent these kind of things from happening in the future.
Yeah, and I think schools are a big part of this too. I feel like there should be more lessons taught about the impacts of social media and the ill effects that it has on students and what bullying can do. Without these lessons, as we're growing, we don't really know about what's wrong and what's right. I feel like we need to kind of have that boundary. And with that, hopefully, schools will just become a safer environment for all of us.
Well, that's it from us for today, but we're curious to hear what you think. Have there been similar cases like this at your school? What would you have done if you were in Principal Marmor's shoes? You can send us a DM at MisEducationPod on Instagram.
Miseducation is a production of The Bell. Learn more about us at bellvoices.org and make sure to follow us at MisEducationPod on social media. Our work is made possible in part by the Summerfield Foundation, the Pinkerton Foundation, and FJC. Today's episode was made in collaboration with our friends at Chalkbeat, in particular, Amy Zimmer and Alex Zimmerman. This episode was produced by Sabrina DuQuesnay, Mia Lobel, Mira Gordon, and Taylor McGraw. It was hosted by me, Shoaa, and Jose Santana. Music from Blue Dot Sessions. Thanks for listening.
Talk to you later.
CTYL.